Okay, I think we're live here. Welcome to this intermittent fasting Q&A. If you have questions, please go ahead and pop them in the chat. If you don't know who I am, my name is Kayla Cox. I'm the owner of this channel, 6 Miles to Supper, which is actually a pretty good summary of how I lost the bulk of my weight. I was obese. I was at 222 pounds and I lost down to 142 pounds. So that's a total loss of about 80 pounds. And I did that mainly through OMAD. That was the real way I practiced intermittent fasting. But basically, all that weight did come off through various forms of intermittent fasting. And I also walk 6 miles every day. So I have a website, 6milestosupper.com, and there's lots of resources on there. I also have a podcast if you're interested in podcasts. It's called 6 Miles to Supper. And so be sure to let me know in the chat if you have a question, the more specific you can be. So for example, if you're saying that you are trying to lose weight, if you can give a little bit more specific, like, are you currently obese? Are you overweight? I understand it can be kind of difficult to share those details. I also have a Google form that you can submit your questions to. Jay can put that in the chat, so that if you want to just not have to put it in the chat, you can put it on that Google form, and then no one will know that you're the one that asked the question. So, and by the way, thank you, Jay, for being in here as 6 Miles to Supper on the chat. He can go through and pull the questions and send them over to me, and then I get to focus on the questions. So let's get started. So the first question was, I stopped intermittent fasting because I was feeling I was eating too little, and I went through a vicious cycle of calorie counting, and I was feeling very weak. I've now gained 6 kilograms, or that's about 13 pounds, and feel that I should again start fasting, but without counting calories. Do you think that will work? Absolutely. That's exactly how I practice intermittent fasting. I hate counting calories, and I get it. Some people out there, they love counting. It's like an empowering thing to them. Whatever floats your boat. I'm not one of those people. I went through this phase in 2015. I was trying really hard to lose weight, and I was like counting every calorie. I was trying to, because I thought that would help me lose weight really fast, and I got obsessive about it, and I was weighing and measuring all of my food, and I started to feel more and more restricted, and I was trying to be on a big deficit, and it was not going fast, and it was just horrible. And I've had enough moment in, like, I think it was like, was it October of that year? I can't remember. In my book, I wrote about like that particular circumstance, but I was sitting at a table with my family. We were having family dinner. Everybody's eating tacos, right? And they're just like piling on their cheese and their sour cream. And I was sitting there feeling so resentful of everybody at that table, because nobody there had a weight problem and nobody there was measuring their stuff, and yet here I was, overweight, very overweight, probably still obese at the time, and trying to measure these little, like, quarter cup of cheese. I was just over it, and I said, I'm just not going to do it anymore. And so I thought, like, oh, but how am I going to know that I'm eating the right amount? And so I told myself this: I'm going to stop eating when I'm full. I'm going to be very careful of that, because I had a very well ingrained habit of like overeating. Like, I was just uncomfortably full by the end of basically every meal. So I said, okay, I'm going to be very careful in that, and I'm going to try to slow down my eating, and I'm going to let the scale tell me, am I eating enough? So in other words, like, if the scale's moving down, that tells me I'm doing something right. So I'm just going to continue to do that. And what I found was I was able to lose weight and feel excellent because I wasn't having to count calories. So, okay. So yes, worked for me. It can certainly work for you. Next question. Do you still get to eat ice cream? And the second question of this was, do you do a 48-hour fast? So I think these are two separate questions. I don't think you're specifically asking, do you have to do a 48-hour fast after you eat ice cream? I love ice cream. I eat it whenever I want it. That I eat any food whenever I want it. And so ice cream has been a thing that I have allowed myself through this entire process. So when I was, at my heaviest and doing intermittent fasting, I would still allow myself ice cream. It depended on like in the window, like it would need to be in the window. Okay, so like when I was doing, say, a 16-8, it would need to be inside that window, that eating window. If it was when I was doing OMAD, the ice cream would need to come at the end of my one meal. So I've never said to myself like, ooh, you can only have ice cream once a week, or you need to like not have very much ice cream. I just eat it whenever I crave it. So now the second question is, do you do a 48-hour fast? I've never done a 48-hour fast. I've done a 5-day fast, which is, oh man, it's 120 hours? 120? I think that's right. That's right. 5 times 24. So I've done that long of a fast. And I do those not for weight loss. I waited until I got down to the weight that I said, okay, I'm not losing anymore, which was like 142. But I said, okay, I'm done losing weight. So now I'm ready to do a 5-day fast because I knew that a 5-day fast was going to pull a lot of weight off my body, but then I would put it right back on, because a lot of the weight you lose in an extended fast like that is water weight. So like once you go back to eating and drinking normally, it does come back. And I've noticed, for myself at least, it comes back with like your hunger levels or my hunger levels rose to, I think it's like your body's natural way of trying to get back into like, okay, you dropped too rapidly, let's get you back up to where you were. So that's just my own experience after doing 2 of those about a year apart. But a 48-hour fast, I haven't done those, and here's why. To me, OMAD, so that's like basically a 24-hour fast, is the most I want to go on a regular basis, because I have a family, because I have kids, and one thing that is super, super important to me is sitting down as a family, coming together and sharing a meal. And so when I'm doing OMAD, that means supper is that meal. If I was doing a 48-hour fast, that would mean that I would miss out on that. And it's tough. Like on those 5-day fasts, like I sit there, with my kids while they're eating, and I don't mind the, smells and everybody's eating. That's not what I mind. But there's something about sitting at the table and not eating when other people are eating. It's like you're kind of missing out on part of the fellowship to me. So I don't enjoy that. So 48-hour fast, I don't think would really work for me. So I don't do them. But now, that being said, lots of people do them, or like they'll do a couple of those a week and maybe eat kind of normally on the alternate days. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to practice that. If it works for your schedule in your life, I say, have at it. Okay, I've tried OMAD multiple times and have only been able to make it a few days each time. I've even tried 2 meals a day, and it never lasts. In your opinion, is it better to try 2 meals a day to start, or just have a snack in the afternoon right before I start cooking dinner? That seems to be my get crazy hungry time. Have you known anyone that just can't make OMAD work? I'm even listening to both your books again for encouragement. Well, awesome. She was talking, or he, I don't know. I was talking about these 2 books, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting and Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles. Both are very helpful in the weight loss journey. This is more about intermittent fasting specifically, and this is about all the hard parts of weight loss, the plateaus, weight gain, just the mindset stuff that comes along. And so if you're having trouble, I would highly recommend those 2 books, because I worked really hard on them, and other people have said they have helped them in their weight loss journey. So this question is a great question, because I love OMAD, but it is not for everybody. It's funny, even with my own, within my family, Jay is the type of a person, like he is, some of you have probably seen him on camera from time to time. He is a thin guy, and he cannot go long stretches of time without food. Like he gets weak and like shaky legs and stuff. My daughter is the same way. She does not do well. Like if she like has a late breakfast even. Like she needs her food on a more frequent schedule. So I've seen that firsthand. There are biological differences between human beings. So some people do great on OMAD. Like my son, for example, he's like 14, and sometimes he'll do OMAD, and he does great with it. He's like, it doesn't bother me. Like he just will do it. So it really comes down to you. But it sounds to me like you tried to go from eating, just normally down to OMAD, and that, in my opinion, is very difficult, because you're talking about like completely changing your life, like what you're used to doing in like a very drastic way. And drastic change like that is really, really difficult. I prefer little baby steps. Like that's the way I got it, that's the way I got to OMAD, was just, okay, I started out very, very simple. Like, okay, I'm gonna like not eat past 10 p.m. and I won't eat breakfast until at least 6 p.m. Okay, that is an 8-hour fasting window. Okay, that's like very, very basic. And most people would say that doesn't work, that's not long enough. But it was just about me learning to say, I eat between these hours. Okay, and then I pushed breakfast out later and later and later. And eventually I was having like an early lunch instead of breakfast. And then I pushed it out a little later and a little later. And then I was having like a late lunch as my first meal. And then eventually I got to the point where I was like, hey man, I'm getting a lot of stuff accomplished during the day and I'm feeling really good. Like my energy levels were really good. And I thought, hey, maybe I can make the window even shorter. So I got even to like a 24, and then I went down to OMAD from that. And I got down to OMAD kind of accidentally because my kids were sick with stomach bug, and so I was just like nervous, so I didn't eat. But that week did teach me like, hey, like the eating one meal a day, I actually did like that. So so it worked for me. But if you find that you're getting like crazy hungry, like some people just can't eat enough at OMAD. Like they just like their human capabilities just say like I don't eat enough at that one meal, and that's like a recipe for being miserable. Like if you're not eating enough at your meal, then like you're gonna have headaches. You're gonna get like you're gonna be draggy the next day. You're probably not gonna be sleeping well. But if you are eating enough, I do find, because you did say like you get crazy hungry time. I found for myself that when I went on OMAD, especially in the early days of OMAD, like now it's a pretty easy transition. Like if I've been doing 2 meals a day and I go to doing OMAD, it's a pretty easy transition. But in those early days, there was a bit of a let's see, what would you call it? Well, hangry. Like I would kind of see my temper getting shorter right before mealtime. And quite frankly, I think in the past couple of days, I've noticed that about myself also. Just because I have been doing 2 meals a day pretty consistently. But then I decided, because right now I'm working on finishing up a book, and like I need to just go back on OMAD because it gives me more time during the day to really work on things. It's not a fasting related book, it's just a fiction book I'm working on. But I need to just kind of have no resistance show up in my eating. So OMAD works for me now. So I have noticed in that transition, it's more about the like a little bit shorter of a temper, not so much crazy hunger, just like a little less patience. So, but ultimately, it's what comes down to what works for you. Like, if 2 meals a day works, but see, even 2 meals a day might be too drastic. Start out with something really basic, like just make your breakfast at, like say, I'm not going to eat breakfast before this certain time. Like start there, and then work your way out really, really gradually. Change is hard. It just is. Like changing your behavior, and that's really all weight loss is just difficult. So go slow and don't expect overnight results, because it takes time. Okay, do you have any experience with being on birth control tablets and trying to lose weight while intermittent fasting? Does this hinder the process or make it harder? Keep up the fantastic work. Well, thanks. Okay, so I never was on birth control pills while doing intermittent fasting. So I was on birth control pills like back in, I don't know, that would be 2004, when we first got married. And I did not do well on them. Like, I had the Depo-Provera shot prior to getting married, and it did not, it messed me up a little bit, I think, like as far as my emotions were just like kind of out of whack. And I think I might have even been slightly depressed. I went to the doctor after we got married because I needed another shot, and the doctor was like shocked that another doctor had actually given me the Depo shot. And so they put me on the pills. The pills were a slight improvement, but I mean, I think I did gain weight. I don't know. It's always so hard to know. Like, was I gaining weight because of the pills, or was I gaining weight because, hey, it's first year of marriage and that's stressful, and I'm like in California, I'm a whole, like across the country from my parents and my family and everything. So I don't really know. Plus my husband was in the Marine Corps and he was getting deployed soon. I mean, so there was a lot going on. But I've heard from a lot of other people that birth control tablets have tended to make weight loss more difficult. But so I would say it's still doable though. I would just, always check with your doctor about, medications, make sure there's no like they're saying, oh, you definitely need to take it with food and all that stuff. So hopefully that helps you. Okay, let's see, next. Fasting at work is easy for me. I love it. When I'm at home, the struggle becomes real. It is much more challenging, and I struggle with instant gratification. How can I get a handle on being more consistent with my fasting when I'm at home? That is a great question. One thing that really helped me, and this kind of may seem like a stretch, but this did help. I read a couple of books, and the first one was Unbroken, and it's the story of Louis Zapparini, and he was a prisoner of war in World War II, and he tells this story about, like they're starving to death basically in this camp, and they could like just get like a handful of rice, and they would split it between these men, and I thought, in those dire situations, people learn, how to have some real self-control. And so I thought to myself, if my kids, like if I was in that kind of a dire circumstance where it's like, this is the food we have, I could have the self-control. So somewhere deep inside of me, I've got that self-control. Like I could only, I could take that quarter of a palmful for myself and then give the rest to the people that I love, right? And so, because before I think my thought was like, I just can't, like I just don't have the willpower, but then that showed me that somewhere deep down inside I did, and I believe everybody deep down has that same strength. It's just that we aren't in that situation, right? Like food is abundant and it's everywhere and it's easy to access. So that did help me. On a more practical level, though, I would say, really deciding this is important. Like, why are you doing this anyway? Like, what's your purpose? Like, why do you want to get the weight off? Do you really want to? Because I mean, some people, they don't really want to. Like they think, well, I need to because my husband wants me to, or I need to because my kids want me to, or my mom wants me to, or whatever. But do you want to? And why is it important? And focusing on that will help motivate you to stick with it. And then also, stay busy. Like, do all the things. When you're at home, like, get the things accomplished. Like, all the house cleaning, like if you have any kind of step goal, if you're walking consistently, get that in. Do all the things and keep yourself really busy, and that will just help you to be more consistent. So many times the breaking of the fast early or just wanting to snack around, that comes down to boredom or stress. You might be stressed about money, you might be stressed about about your weight, there's or about your work. There's so many different things that it could be. So hopefully that helps you. Okay, what is the best way to refeed after a 3 or 4 day water fast? I've read that you have to be careful about how you introduce nutrients after an extended period of no solid food. Thanks. Well, I'm the worst person to ask about this, I think, because so I told you guys earlier I did the 5-day fast. Like, I've done 2 of those. After my first 5-day fast, I broke it with a meat and cheese plate that we kind of made for our date night. So that was like roast beef, like sliced roast beef. There was all sorts of cheeses. There was maybe pickles, I think. There was peanut butter M&Ms. I mean, there was just like all the foods, very rich. Bread, I remember distinctly there was bread. It tasted so good. But so that's what I ate, and I was fine. Like, I was totally fine. And I mean, I was kind of nervous because I was like, I'm about to break this in a way that people say not to break it. Like, people say, like, sip some bone broth and, you know, wait 3 hours or something. But I was like, that's how I did it. And then on this most recent one, I broke it, and I broke it with a big plate of spaghetti, Instant Pot spaghetti. And that was what I had with, like, ground turkey meat in it. So, which we buy because it's cheap. Not because I like turkey meat so much, but it is cheap. So, yeah. So that's how I wrote mine. My philosophy is, you know, human beings are not so fragile. Like, we're pretty tough, and we're made to withstand a lot of things. So I just don't worry about that stuff very much. But, you know, if your stomach is sensitive, you may want to read up of experiences of people who, you know, they are more gentle about it. Okay, let's see. Hi, Kayla. I started on OMAD a week ago and walking every day. Awesome. I want to lose about 15.5 pounds, 7 kilograms, but will be happy if it's more. My question is, did you also feel that after a day or two that you can actually eat not as much, or you would expect, or as much as you would expect after fasting all day long? Love your videos. Oh, I looked up how to pronounce your name before I got on here. Ronsha. I think that that's actually the correct pronunciation. It's spelled Rentia. So, which is French, I think. But, okay, so that's a great question. So after a day or two, like on OMAD, I am a good eater. Like, what I mean by that is, I think one of the reasons why I tend to, in the past, or, you know, just as a lifelong thing, have struggled with weight gain and stuff is because I just have the capacity to really eat, like to sit down and eat the food. I eat big portions. Like, okay, so this is the plate that I eat off of. I think it's 9 inches. I think that's what we said is Fiesta ware plate, which is my favorite. But I can eat like 2 platefuls of food on that at OMAD. I mean, some people will like barely fill up this plate and they're like, oh, I'm so stuffed. But I need like 2 plates full to feel full. So I haven't really ever noticed like a thing with myself like, oh wow, I just don't have the appetite I used to. I eat a lot less than I used to, but that's because I don't emotionally eat, and I don't do like distracted eating, so I don't have devices on and stuff like that, or watch TV or anything like that. Generally speaking, there are a couple of exceptions to the rule, but as a habitual thing, I'm focusing on the food, and I'm trying to slow down my eating. So yeah, so I'm not the type of person who's like, oh man, I can just barely hold any food. Some people are like that though. I have heard from people that, I mean, and that is sometimes why they can't seem to get OMAD to work for them, because it's like they just can't eat enough at that meal. But yeah, so great question. So good luck to you. Okay, Kate Boring says, do you walk 6 miles daily? Yeah, I walk 6 miles 6 days a week now. I used to walk 6 miles 7 days a week. That, like in 2016, I did that very consistently. And then like in 27, so after I started maintaining, I was like, hey, you know, do I still have to keep walking 6 miles a day, or what do I need to do? So I experimented around, but I found that I felt the best when I continued my daily walk. Then more recently, I think it was the beginning of this year, I said, I'm going to take Sundays completely off. I was already having Sundays off from fasting, call it my cheat day, but it's really just a day off. I don't work that day. I don't, do any kind of fasting. And so I thought maybe I should just take the entire day off, because occasionally the steps would be kind of this thing that I would be doing, and it would interfere in the day a little bit. Like if I slept in, which is kind of a rare thing these days, but if I slept in, and then we had breakfast, and then maybe we're going to go do something, it was just a little bit like, it was a little bit annoying. So I said, okay, I'm going to just experiment with that. And so far, I've really enjoyed it, and I haven't noticed any kind of difference on the scale. So there you go. Okay. Hi, I completely fell off my plan. I was 6 weeks in, doing great. Then I moved home, changed jobs, and got totally derailed. Feel hopeless now. Want to get back on track, but I keep sabotaging myself. Help. Okay. That is a great question. First of all, you're human. Congratulations. We all mess up. We all have these times where it's like things are going sideways, and it's just like, what's going on? So stay calm. You're going to be okay. First of all, you were able to be consistent for 6 weeks, which is great. And then your whole life got turned upside down. I mean, that is like just a ton of life change that's happening. And so generally what happens is we kind of go back to old habits, right? Like when you're, when everything else is different, it's like, let's go back to the thing that makes us feel like secure. Like, I'll give you an example. A few months ago, it was like everything was crazy, right? I mean, in my own life, I was like, oh, wow, like book sales were taking a hit because of, this whole lockdown and everything, and everybody's worried. And so there were lots of things going on. And before that, I was just, sticking with, 2 meals a day. I was even experimenting a little with just, 2 meals, maybe sometimes 3 meals. But my life was getting so hectic. Like, it was like all those things that had been so sure and just steady were now like chaos. So I said, okay, I could tell like the scale was starting to trend up. And I was like, okay, I'm going back to OMAD, because I know that. Like, I know that will keep me at the weight I want to be. No more experimenting right now. I just need to go back to doing the things that I'm used to and that works. So first of all, forgive yourself, because a lot of times what happens, especially with me, but I think with a lot of people, is like once we mess up, then it's like this thing in our head, like just berating ourselves, not forgiving ourselves, being mad at ourselves, being frustrated. And then it's very hard to motivate yourself when you're meanwhile also trash talking yourself. So then just stop and regroup and look at your current life, because it might be that your whole schedule is totally different, and that's why everything got off, like off kilter. So look at your life as it is right now. What is your job like? What is your home life like? And then make your new plan. So write it down. Write down exactly what you're committed to. And remember, you can make changes as you go along, like based on your results, you can make little tweaks, but write something down. And it can be very simple. It can be something like, I eat 2 meals a day, no snacks. That's a plan, so keep it simple. And you're going to be fine. Give yourself some time. Watch the stress eating, because right now, like if you move back home and you change jobs, that's stressful. And so food is very comforting, and so eliminating those times when you might want to stress eat, or because it's so tricky. You think like, oh, I'm really hungry, I just want a snack right now. But quite often it's, I'm really stressed right now and I want some food to comfort me. So creating some rules for yourself. That's why intermittent fasting is so great. It's like it puts a time boundary around food so that you don't stress eat for a good portion of the day, and it kind of just can help you to not stress eat. So, but you can totally do this. You were already doing it. You just have to get back on the horse. And that just happens one day at a time. Just take it one day at a time. There's a great book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie. And it's a great book. One of the best lessons from it is live in day type compartments, which just means you focus on just today. Just today. That's all you're thinking about. You're not thinking about 10 years from now. You're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not thinking about what happened yesterday or even 6 weeks ago when you had it all together, right? It's just like today. What can you control today? And focus on that. And you can move on from there. Okay. Also, self-sabotage, just a quick little thing. A lot of times self-sabotage can be your way of protecting yourself. Because it's scary to do new things, to change your life. I mean, because a lot of times weight loss comes with the fact that you are changing your life. You're getting out of all these habits. Sometimes it means like you find out like, man, I really hate my job and I need to change that too. And then you got to change jobs. So, I mean, there's lots of things that happen. So just, you're going to be fine. So just kind of, take some time to process it too. Journaling would be a great idea. I journal all the time. It helps me a lot, especially when things aren't going well. That's the power of journaling. It's like, man, you can just get it all out on paper and it helps put things into perspective. It helps you think better too. Okay. Carissa, I hope you got my email. Here's her question. And you guys, Carissa, can I share with them what you shared with me? If not, that's okay. Just say yes or no in the chat, and then because I want to brag on you if I can. Okay, so have you ever dealt with an injury that prevented you from walking? Any tips to keep a positive mindset? I've hurt my foot, and not being able to go for walks is starting to weigh on me. Oh man, that is rough. I have not, praise the Lord, I have not yet had an injury that prevented me from walking. You guys, okay, Jay gave me the thumbs up. Carissa has lost 100 pounds. I was so thrilled. Like she submitted through the Google form, and I was just like so thrilled. She was in the academy a while back, and she's just a rock star. So you guys congratulate her, because that is just incredible. Okay, but now she's got a foot injury, so let's talk about that. So keeping a positive mindset. I think one thing to like keep reminding yourself is, people have lost weight and kept it off with no exercise at all. So that's one thing. And so like the idea that like, oh no, I'm not walking, so now I'm going to gain weight. I think like that's what is that called? Like a non sequitur. Like that doesn't follow. You can still either maintain or keep losing without the walking. But I understand from my own experience, it's like the walking keeps me sane, right? Like I love the mood I get in when I'm walking. I love I move better. Like when I'm walking 6 miles a day, it's just like my whole body works better. My mind is clearer. My emotions are more level. So staying in that positive mindset, I would say continue to take that time for yourself. So however long you were walking every day, I don't know how much you were walking. So that chunk of time, use it for something that you really enjoy. Like, and I don't mean Facebook, and I don't mean like necessarily like watching TV, because those things can kind of, be a drain. But like, I don't know, just anything. Like if you like reading, if you like drawing, creating something, like if you've got any hobbies, or just hanging out, having some quality time with your spouse, or just basically replace what you were doing, like that time, with something, and something that you really, really enjoy. That would be something I would do, something that keeps you in that positive mindset. The reason I said not Facebook is because, well, I don't have Facebook anymore, but it put me always like in a negative mindset, and it was like, it just gives you more reasons to think badly about the world or about your situation. So depending on who else in your newsfeed, I guess. But yeah, keeping the mindset. Read lots of, I would say, like read lots of self-help books that will keep you. Keep reminding you of the power of mindset. Some great books would be Mindset by Carol Dweck, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. I think that's That's right. And let's see, there are lots of other good ones, but anything by Zig Ziglar, anything by Jim Rohn, watching those types of motivational videos on YouTube. It's always hard to recommend that though, because YouTube can kind of lead down a rabbit hole. So yeah, so hopefully that helps you, Carissa, but you're going to be just fine. You'll heal up, and then you'll be right back to it too. That's another thing to remember. Like, this too shall pass, and you'll be back to normal soon. Sherry Oliver, with the 6 miles, do you aim for 14,000 steps within a day, or do you do the 6 miles plus your daily steps? Hope this makes sense. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I do 14,000 steps, period. So that includes all of my daily, tasks, and, just up and walking around the house, or walking, to the bathroom or whatever. It's all inclusive. So the reason I do that is just because it's easier just to know, okay, if my Fitbit says 14,000 steps, I have done what I said I was going to do for the day. I'm the type of person who wouldn't have very many steps otherwise. I tend to, when I am not actively up getting steps, I tend to be a sedentary kind of person. I just I'll sit there and read for long periods of time, or I my husband, he's not like that. He's always up buzzing around, doing things, and he's fidgeting all the time, but I'm just very relaxed, and I don't move around much. So yeah, that's always been my rule. So Varada says, my Fitness Pal won't complete a day if I don't meet their calorie number. Well, then don't use it. I don't know. I never use my Fitness Pal. I use the Fitbit app. I have a Fitbit, so yeah, that stinks though. Did they make you count calories, or or is it I don't know. I don't know what that means. So sorry. I maybe look for a different app though. If it's frustrating, there are other good ones out there that people like. So Gabriel RPG says, I've been fasting 24 for about 3 days, and I ate about 1,300 calories a day and didn't lose a gram. Well, 3 days is not long enough. That's the thing. You can't expect results in 3 days. Period. Because here's why. Your weight fluctuates. If you want to test this for yourself, just don't do anything out of the ordinary. Just don't do any kind of plan, and weigh yourself for 6 weeks, or 2 weeks, or even just 1 week, and see how your weight goes up and down independently, really, of what you're doing day to day. But over the long term, over 6 weeks, you'll be able to see oh, my weight is trending down, or oh, my weight is trending up. But this, 2 days, 3 days, not enough. Weeks and weeks, months and months to lose, and to really see what's going on. My weight, I think I've been tracking it now for and since 2015, so that's what, 5.5 years, is that right? Yeah. And in a single day, it has jumped by 5.8 pounds. So that's a lot of weight, and that wasn't even when I was up really high, because when you're up higher, it fluctuates more, but it fluctuates even when I was down at a lower weight. So it's hard to tell, right? It's almost impossible. You could just drink lots of water and have something salty, and your weight goes up by a few pounds. Well, you didn't really gain that much weight. It's just that your weight fluctuates. So to really get a handle on, is something working? Give it 6 weeks. That's what I would say. So Bryant Pearson says, I have lost 140 pounds. That is awesome, but I can't break loose that last 10 pounds. Why is that? The more weight that I lose, the harder it is to fast 48 hours. So Bryant, congratulations. You have changed your life. If you would like to be interviewed by me on this channel, please reach out. And that would be great. Jay will put the link in the chat. Anybody out there, if you'd like to share your story on my channel, please reach out. I know that sometimes sharing your story can be difficult, and I certainly understand it puts more pressure on the weight loss journey. So I always want to warn people that it will put more pressure on you. But at the same time, people find success stories very motivating. It shows people like, yes, you can do this. Like, yes, it's possible. And the more people I can, like put on this channel and show like, yes, this is possible, the more people it helps. So anyway, okay, so why are the last 10 pounds hard? I think it's a couple of things, and this is just me talking, but I think one thing is a mental thing. So we get in a hurry. That last 10 pounds is like, I just want to be down at that weight, and it can just start to seem like it's taken forever. Now, although when I lost my last, it's like 17 pounds, I think. So when I went down from, like, I think I was like at 159, 160, or like I was maintaining like between 157 and 163 when I was starting my YouTube channel, and I decided like, okay, I'm gonna go back on doing OMAD and walking and do that. When I lost that amount of weight, like, so it was like 17 pounds, it took a year. It took a whole year. And so that was like a third of a pound a week. I might be getting my dates wrong, but I did tally up everything, and it was a third of a pound a week, which is really slow. And a lot of times it seems like, I'm not even making any progress. Like when you look week to week, it's like it's barely doing anything. It can look to the untrained eye like a plateau. But I just kept saying to myself, well, I'm just going to keep going with it. I'm going to be really consistent. And it does. It just kind of like barely comes down. And I think you didn't list like your BMI or anything, but if you're getting down into the normal BMI, that's just based on my own experience and the experiences I've read about of other people and people who have talked to me about it. It's like once they get near that normal BMI, it's like your body is just, it's like, cool, we're good here. Like this is a nice healthy weight. We don't need to lose anymore. And your body's trying to keep you from starving to death too. So it wants you to maintain a healthy weight. So I think that's part of it too. It's like your body's saying, okay, we're good here. And then it gets really slow. But then also the mental challenge of like, yeah. And then sometimes what can happen is you rush, or you start to rush a little bit. And so maybe you're like doing things that might be a little like more difficult and in an effort to try to rush things and have faster results, which then makes it harder, which then makes everything seem like it's taking forever. So those are just some thoughts. Okay, Rafael Arroyo Jr. says, do I need to change my walking routine to keep from reaching a plateau? If so, how drastic by distance, pace, time of day? Look, my philosophy on plateaus is keep doing what you're doing. Don't change a thing. Now, I never changed anything, and I'm glad I didn't, because had I changed something, had I been like, okay, I gotta pick up the pace to break this plateau, well, then I would have thought, well, I can never go back to walking that pace. I really liked walking. Like, to me, the most important thing is, what can I continue to do for the rest of my life and enjoy? And I tried to always make my decisions to say, like, okay, if that's something I wouldn't want to do forever, like picking up my pace, like, no thanks. So, like, I like to just amble, basically. So yeah, I say stick with what you're doing. The plateau eventually breaks of its own accord. Be super duper consistent though with your eating plan. So like if you're doing OMAD, be very consistent with OMAD. If you're doing a 16-8, be very consistent with your 16-8. And just consistency over time will break the plateau. Now, if you've been consistent, and I would say if you've been consistent for say 12 weeks, and you're like, I'm doing all the things I was doing, and I've done this consistently for 12 weeks, and nothing has changed on the scale, then I would say your plan has probably taken you as far as it will go. And so you might want to look into making a change if you feel that it can be sustainable. But if you think, hey, this is it for me, this is what I'm willing to do, then just be okay with maintaining it that way. Like, everybody has to stop losing at some point, and everybody has to determine for themselves what that point is. So yeah. I don't, I don't really mess with like changing distance or pace or anything like that. Jeff Heinzman, Carissa Grimm asked about injury. Same question. My ankles, shins, and blisters all show up. Did you get any repair strategies? I mean, I've never, I used to always have problems with my knees and stuff, but I've just not had, with the walking, just nothing. Now, when I would run, when I was at my heaviest, I would get out and try to run 3 miles a day, and I got horrible, I can't, there was heel pain, there was pain in my heel, and there was also pain in the arch of my foot. I can't remember what that's called right now, but it was really super duper painful, and I just, basically I just worked through it. Anything that I have like that, I just keep going, and sometimes I've found that it's kind of more in my head, but blisters and stuff, make sure your shoes fit right, and if you need to replace your shoes, do that, but take good care of yourself. But I don't really deal with a lot of injuries. I think it's because I just walk, I don't run, and it's not too hard on my body. Brian asked, what have you found to help with Achilles issues? I have not ever had an Achilles issue, so sorry about that. Talk to your doctor though, and see if they have anything that maybe they can offer. Rosa Bazar, I hope I pronounced that right. Plantar fasciitis. Yes, that is what it was called, and it was super painful, and I thought I was going to die sometimes, but I still hung in there, and I did it. I read the book Born to Run, and that was like a what do you call that? A paradigm shift. Because before that, I was like, I don't know, 3 miles a day, is that going to be too much running for my knees? And, I was all worried. And I read this book, and it's there are these people out there that run 100 miles constantly, the Tarahumara Indians, I think, something like that. And so it kind of completely made me think, I'm being ridiculous here. And that was kind of where my philosophy changed on how fragile we are as humans. I'm we're pretty tough. We can, our bodies can go through a lot more than we think. That reminds me, there was a woman who was running a marathon every day, and she said that it helped her MS. So it's crazy, some of the stuff that people can do. Okay, let's see. You're such an inspiration. Let's see. Rosa, you said your videos kept me sane through a 4-week plateau. Keep up the great work. Well, Rosa, that is awesome. It sounds like the plateau has broken now. So that is great. Congratulations. Hopefully that will encourage anybody else out there who is also going through a plateau to just hang in there. I know they're tough. I would say probably, well, aside from weight gain is probably the most frustrating thing you can experience on the weight loss journey, which I have experienced before. And weight plateaus. Those are the two most, you know what it is? It's the mental challenge of it. It's that mental game that you start to play with yourself where you think, this just isn't working anymore. What's the point? And then you quit. But if you just don't quit, you just stick with it, you'll get there. Let's see. You're such an inspiration. Oh, thanks. Your story changed my life. Oh, thanks. I try to walk 14,000 steps daily in my house. Christy Monroe. Well, that is awesome, Christy. I still do it, in my house. I love to walk in my house. I love house walking around, listen to my podcast. My kids are homeschooling, so I'm trying to keep them on task and everything. It just works really well. It's no excuses. I can get my steps in. So thanks for sharing that, Christy. Okay. DB says, what's your fasting window when you do 2 meals a day? Well, that depends. Oh, I think you mean me specifically, right? So when I would do 2 meals a day, I don't watch the clock. So I would just say, okay, I'm going to have lunch and I'll have supper. So I don't look at the clock. I'm the type of person, I don't know if you've known a person like this before, but I have trouble remembering what time of year it is and what year we're in and that kind of thing. So the idea of watching the clock all the time is like I'm just not that great at it. Not because I don't know, like it's just not how my brain works, I guess. And so I mean that was one reason why it was helpful for me. Like when I was doing windows, like I would just always make it the same time every day. So like when I'm doing an 18-6, I would say, okay, I eat between the hours of 12 and 6, or 2 and 8. Like there was none of this like, oh, I ate my last food at 7 o'clock, so now I'm gonna calculate it based on like that doesn't work for me. It's too much information to try to keep up with. So when I'm doing 2 meals a day, it's like, okay, lunch, if lunch is at 11, lunch is at 11. If lunch is at 12, lunch is at 12. If lunch is at 2, lunch is at 2. Now again, I'm maintaining when I do that, so like I'm not trying to actively lose. And maintenance is a little bit different of a game than weight loss. But I would, if I had to nail it down to a time, I would say probably most of the time I was doing, it was probably more of an 18-6 than a 16-8, but there would be maybe sometimes that it would be a 16-8, if that makes sense. Like, just because I'm thinking normally we eat at 6, and normally I wasn't eating until probably 12. But some days it'd be a little bit earlier, and some days it'd be a little bit later. So hopefully that answers your question. I hate to be so vague, but it's honest, like that's just how I live my life. Leanne Mary says, you're such an inspiration and lovely person. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Rafael Arroyo Jr. says, during my fast, which is a 24 fast, which by the way means 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating, just for any new people out there. Sometimes I forget that sometimes people, are not familiar with these terms. I make a matcha green tea, or matcha, I can't remember. Matcha? Jay, do you remember? I don't know. All right. Green tea, but I heat the water with a cinnamon stick to supplant the honey I used to add in my pre-fasting days. Do you think the cinnamon stick breaks my fast? No, I don't think so. I am very laid back about the whole thing. I'm what they call a dirty faster. I didn't even know that's what I was until I heard the term like a year or two ago. I was like, oh, well, that's what I've been doing the whole time. But when I have my coffee during the day, I drink half and half in it, which is cream for any of you British people out there, or probably any non-American doesn't know what I mean when I say half and half. So, but it's cream. It has calories. Now, mine is the actual, like half and half is just like half cream, half milk. So it doesn't have added sugar or anything like that. But it does have calories. It has fat in it, maybe some carbs. I don't know. But no added sugar. I'm not talking like International Delight vanilla or whatever, because that actually does have like corn syrup and stuff in it. I'm just talking about the dairy product of half and half. But I've had that in my coffee this entire time. So when I said, okay, I'm gonna do intermittent fasting, I'm gonna be consistent with it, I thought, okay, what would be easy? Like, how could I continue to do this like on a consistent basis? And I thought, man, that's gonna be kind of tough. Like the not eating, for a big portion of the day, like every day, like maybe for the rest of my life. Like I was trying to think, okay, what could make that easy? And that was a question from Tim Ferriss that I learned. And so I thought, hey, if I could have coffee with half and half whenever I wanted, I could do that. Like I can, like in a fasting window, if I feel hungry and if I just have a cup of coffee to tide me over, I can do that, I think. And so that's what I've done. So that's dirty fasting, but it worked for me. So I don't get all bent out of shape. Like cinnamon sticks, and by the way, actually I had sugar in my coffee in those early days. I eventually weaned myself off of sugar in my coffee because I figured it would make fasting easier if I didn't have the sugar. And so when I cut that out, and I also, because I taught myself how to learn to like unsweet tea. I'm a Southerner, so like I was used to drinking a cup and a half of sugar in a gallon of tea, but now I drink it unsweet because I learned to like it, and I'll drink LaCroix and I'll drink my coffee with half and half. But yeah, I don't worry about things like that. It's all about like, what do you enjoy? What do you like? Because think your whole lifetime, like this weight loss thing, you want it to be permanent. You want to do the things now that you can continue to do forever. So I would encourage you to have your tea, have your matcha the way you like it. Let's see. Leanne Mary thought I'd better clarify. To boot is an English phrase meaning on top of everything else. Hopefully you didn't misunderstand me. No, I understand that phrase. Now I can't remember your question though. So, but yes, we're all good.
You're a lovely person to boot.
Oh, I'm a lovely person to boot. Yes, I did totally get that. I use that phrase, to boot. So yeah. Okay, Mary V says, oh, we're running out of time. Have you ever done a prolonged fast, meaning for more than 48 hours, and have you regained any weight during intermittent fasting, or your weight stabilized? Okay, so yes, 48 hours I've done the 2 5-day fasts about a year apart. My latest one was in February, and my one before that was like in the fall of the year, 2 years before. I don't know. Basically, it was about a year apart. And so your question, I'm not sure if you mean, did I regain the weight from that fast? If that's your question, then yes, absolutely. I gained it back quickly too. Like, I lost about 11 pounds on this last one, I think, and it was all back on within 2 weeks, which I expected. Like I said, I don't do the extended fasting like that for weight loss. I do it, because I've read some interesting things about possible like cancer insurance. I heard about that from Dom D'Agostino. But anyway, I thought, hey, I mean, it's worth a shot. Cancer runs my family, so anything I can do to kind of maybe help prevent it. But so I did it just for those like health purposes and spiritual purposes too. Like I kind of felt like that was something, it's in the Bible, and I thought, okay, well, yeah, let's see what's it like to fast for 5 days. And so yes, I did regain weight like that. Now but maybe you were asking, have I ever regained any of the weight? And yes, I have in the past. If memory serves, I wrote about it in this book, but I won't try to find it right now. I think the highest my weight has ever gone was 152.8. I think that's right. But generally, I stick in the 140s. My goal is to always be in the 140s. If I get above 150, that starts to make me nervous, because at 154, I'll be considered overweight, okay? And so like I feel like once I get above 150, that's like, okay, something's going on here. Either you're stressed out, you're stress eating, you're overeating, something's up. And when that happens, like when I find myself like, oh, the scale, like what's going on, I say, okay, let's sit down and let's figure out what's going on. And there's always something going on. It's like stress, like writing is stressful. Even this channel can be stressful from time to time. Like and just life, things going on can be stressful. And I try to give myself some grace. In the beginning, after I wrote that first book, I was like, I can never be above 142 ever, or I'm a liar, right? Because I wrote a book that says like I lost 80 pounds and kept it off, which, by the way, that's a horrible idea to name your book that, because that means like in your mind, you're going to think anytime you're over at all, it's like you're lying or something. So I had to just come to terms with that. Like, okay, that's not what that means. At the time, yeah, I had kept it off, but I'm human, basically. So, but yeah, I find for myself, being in the 140s is super easy, doable. And if I do find like, oh, it's going up, it's like, I just need to stop what I'm doing, take inventory. Like most of the time, like, so I call it doing a post-mortem, okay? Like you got to figure out why your plan's dying right now, like what's going on. And most of the time what I've found for myself is it comes down not so much to the, like how many times I'm eating. So like 2 meals a day or 1 meal a day. It's more about what I've been able to find is the real like insidious things. Like I'll just be a little bit too full at the end of the meal, not by a lot, but just like think I kind of ate too much at that meal. And then you start to notice like, this has been like a recurring theme, and it's like, oh, that's why I'm, why the weight is coming back on. So then it's just a simple process of like, okay, got to be a little bit slower at my meal. I got to make sure I'm focusing, got to make sure, here's the big one, make sure I'm dealing with whatever is stressing me out at that time. And then the weight comes right back down. Okay. Oh, we're out of time. One more question. Carissa says, not fasting related, but are you guys still doing the RV life? No, we sold our RV. We moved back to Florida, and we're in a permanent location. We did the RVing thing full time for 2 years. It was a blast. We loved it. We had a wonderful time. But it was just time for it to kind of come to an end. We had really decided in October of last year that we were pretty sure we were about done. And so we just said, okay, where do we want to live? And then of course the whole nation's shut down. And so that was a whole other thing, a whole other series of events that we were dealing with. But we're all good. We love living down here, and we love being around people. It can be a little bit isolating living that kind of life, so it's nice to be back amongst family and friends. So thank you guys for joining me here on this live. And also I meant to mention that I do offer private coaching if you find that you're kind of feeling stuck or feeling like you're overwhelmed and you just need somebody to talk to and figure out your plan with. That's what I do. And of course, encouragement is something I always offer. So thank you guys for watching this, and I will see you guys in the future. Hopefully, it looks like this was a good time, so maybe we'll do this on a more regular basis. So now Jay's gonna stop the live stream.